Friends, family, subscribers to the YouTube channel, Adventuring with the S.G.O.C.C. We have a very special edition of In the Bunker with Geoff today. We have my friend David, who is here with 4 of his firearms, and we're going to let him take the floor because he knows about them, and all I know is that they hail from Egypt, which isn't enough. So, the floor is yours, Dave.
Thank you, Geoff. Greetings, everybody. My name's David, as Geoff said. I'm a good friend of Geoff and Tim's, and I have...
Oh, wait. Dad joke. Why does Cinderella horrible at soccer?
Why is Cinderella
Last
horrible?
numbers.
No, she's always running from the ball. All right, I apologize. Go ahead.
Yes. So, I have brought several firearms from my collection. I'm a hobbyist and collector of curio and relic firearms, particularly surplus military firearms from the early and up to the mid 20th century. Today, I thought I'd bring a few of my collection, and the theme for today is Egyptian battle arms. We're going to start today with the first of those, which is the FN, or Fabrique Nationale, model number 49.
That is just a wonderful looking rifle.
Oh, I love those iron sights.
I see that it has a fixture for a bayonet.
It does have a bayonet, and I do have a bayonet for it. I will put that on towards the end of this one because it is rather difficult to take off. But this particular battle rifle, as it's known, was made in Belgium. That's where Fabrique Nationale is located, in Belgium. And there were, just a little over 700,000 of these firearms made. Actually, excuse me, there was about 160,000 of these firearms total made. And they were given to several different countries, one of them being Egypt. Egypt had amassed about 30,000 or so of these firearms. It is chambered in the 7.92 by 57 Mauser, or 8mm Mauser. And the reason why Egypt has 8mm Mauser firearms is because after the Nazis were kicked out of northern Africa, they left tens of millions of 8mm rounds there. And Egypt took advantage of that and said, we have all this 8mm ammunition, we're just going to go ahead and acquire firearms in 8mm Mauser ammunition. So that's why it is chambered in 8mm Mauser. It has a detachable magazine here that holds 10 rounds. It is a gas-operated battle rifle, and it was developed just towards the end of World War II and started production in 1949 after the war. So that's why it's the Model 49. Like I say, it is gas-operated. You pull the action back. It is intended to be fed by a 5-round clip, 2 5-round clips into the magazine. Like I said, the magazine is detachable, but it's not very expedient of how they manufactured it. But it's semi-automatic. They did make a few fully automatic versions of this rifle, but for the most part, these were made semi-automatic. Like I said, Egypt acquired about 30,000 of these rifles in their contract with Fabrique Nationale, and they acquired these in the early 1950s. So this is the transition into the battle rifle type small arms that were coming into play during and after World War II, and Egypt needed to upgrade their bolt action weapons, so they went ahead and got this, and this is where they started their semi-automatic battle rifle armament in their army was with the Fabrique Nationale FN-49. And like I say, you don't want to get your thumb in there, but it is quite, it'll get your thumb if you don't do it right.
And what's the accuracy of that rifle?
This one is fairly accurate. I mean, this is an 8mm Mauser. Typically, 8mm Mauser rounds are accurate, or have an accuracy about 300 meters to 500 meters. They have a maximum effective range of about 500 meters. They can go out to about 800 to 1,000 meters. Fabrique Nationale did make several of these models in a sniper model. Those are far and few between to come by, regardless of which country they're in. The other models that the FN-49 is chambered in are 7mm Mauser. Let's see, I think the Argentines had one in 6.5, and then the NATO countries who acquired them had them obviously chambered in the 30-06 round. And so
what's the comparative of the 8mm and a 30-06 round?
the 8mm is obviously a little bit bigger in diameter. The ballistics, I think ballistics of 8mm generally has more stopping power up front, but it doesn't have quite the distance just because of the heavier bullet in it. But it's definitely within the same ballistic range.
Yeah, that gets into the ballistic coefficient because the weight or grain of the bullet by X factor of how much powder is in it and the type of case that you have. A brass case will always hold the energy better and expend that energy. And there's a lot of math involved in what's called the ballistic coefficient.
Right.
So if one were to look at a 30-06
cool.
round versus an 8mm round, you can see the case is longer and holds more powder for a heavier grain bullet, which is the part that expels out of the gun. So there's a lot of math involved. There's a way to measure all that energy, and I have some gun books specifically that deal with ballistic coefficient.
Yeah, isn't it?
But if you're going to go after big game, and an ex-Army issue firearm is a great big game rifle. They used them in all over Africa when safaris and big game hunting came to the fore. North America, Canada, there are still Eskimo tribes that use former military arms as their big game weapons. They can take down a moose, elk. I don't know that I would go up against a Kodiak bear or a large-sized black bear or a grizzly without an additional large caliber handgun, but you could certainly, as an indigenous person, and that doesn't mean just Indians, it means anybody born in that country, take down big game and feed your family with a former military rifle.
Got a 10-inch blade?
It's about 10 inches, yeah. So the bayonets that Fabrique Nationale are pretty much, as far as I know, you could get any FN-49 bayonet, and it should be compatible with the other ones. I think just however they bored out the chamber and the barrel. I think the barrel diameter is the same on all. I may be wrong, but that's the way I understood it, is that you can pretty much get any FN-49 bayonet and put it on any version, 30-06, 8mm Mauser, or the 7mm Mauser, or the 6.5mm Argentine rounds that they used.
And how do you disconnect it?
So the disconnect, just like a normal bayonet here. This one's pretty stiff. I greased it up a little bit. Oh, see, it came up. I had to grease it up, or put some oil on it because it was being very stubborn the other day. And so yeah, you can see that it comes off now pretty decently. It's just held on with this standard push release here that comes on all, pretty much all the Mauser type bayonets. Same thing with the Garand, M1 Garand bayonet. It's the same basic principle there. But yeah, so
I'm sure there's plenty of people, including myself, who didn't know how to take a bayonet off, let alone how they work.
right. Well,
Because you don't see them very often.
right. No, you don't see them very often. I mean, these FN49 bayonets, they're not real hard to find. It's real difficult to find an actual Egyptian one that has the Egyptian Arabic characters on them. This one particular one, I don't believe is an Egyptian one, but it's one I found at a decent price, and it fits. And it goes with it. They were designed that way when they manufactured them. So
It's nice to know that many of them are universal.
yeah. So yeah, like I say, it's pretty much universal. So to my understanding of an FM49 bayonet is an FM49 bayonet.
And any of our viewers that want to chime in with any sort of historical comments or information, feel free. We appreciate learning more about the weapons that we display. Also, post-World War II, the designation battle rifle applied to any semi-automatic magazine or clip-fed firearm that was used by a military anywhere on the planet.
Yeah.
Until Heckler & Koch in the early 70s came out with their 308 battle rifle, which came with a forward mount bipod, iron sights, and I can't remember the ballistic arms. I think it was 308, as it was trying to keep with the NATO round. But Heckler & Koch was a German company, and they specifically called that a 308 battle rifle. But that's early to mid 70s is when that was released.
Right.
Since before then, anything that was designated a semi-automatic, usually gas-fed, magazine-held arm was a battle rifle.
Right.
Because it was used in battle.
Right. For example, the M. Garand is a battle rifle. It was an early model with an internal magazine, but it is considered an early battle rifle. Your other battle rifles of World War II would be your Gewehr 41, and the Gewehr 43. Those were considered battle rifles of World War II.
So the Mauser 7.65 millimeter, I believe, was what the Germans used for their bolt-action semi-automatic.
The same round as this, the 7.92.
Oh, it is 7.92.
7.92 by 57.
I was close.
Yeah, that was a standard round that Germany used since the late 1800s.
That was a good rifle too. That thing was accurate as hell.
The K98 that they made towards the end of the 19th century. So I have only fired this a few times. When we get a chance, we'll go out and shoot these.
Yeah, we were supposed to do that today, but unfortunately, weather decided, no, you're not.
Mother Nature's talking.
It rained here all night long.
It snowed again last night
Up on Car Canyon?
on my house,
On your house. Very nice.
and I live off of Bevers, which is the south part of town.
So if you want to pan over there, Tim, we now have 5 gong targets because
No, they can see it. You can peek it out behind his knee.
This gentleman here, our good friend, exposed us to gong targets a little over a year ago, and
Yeah, we said we're gonna get them when we
You get
can.
hooked.
We
You get
were
hooked.
doing
You
it.
get some
You got-
feedback when you shoot.
that immediate feedback of hitting a gong, you'll never shoot paper again.
Oops, sorry.
I tell you. And we suffer that. Upcoming in the next few weeks, we hope to have a run and gun QRF exercise using a great deal of gongs. It'll be a timed event, and at the end, the winner gets to play with a piece of canine.
No. Here, show it again. Turn it around. And in case anybody the person who actually made that, you want to sponsor us. And Rockstar? Hey, I'm not saying we are, but we should be. It's what I drink.
Or
One a day.
or peace tea.
Yep, peace teas. Yeah, just throwing that out there.
Throwing that out there. So, next in line, great rifle, very collectible. People like them. They shoot well. They are relatively easy to maintain. But Egypt wasn't totally 100% satisfied with this rifle. So what they did is they started manufacturing their own battle rifles. This is the Hakim rifle, Hakim, Hakim battle rifle. It is a rifle that Egypt manufactured in its own borders, but it is based wholly off of the Swedish AGM-42 battle rifle that was developed just at the beginning of World War II, but kind of put on hold because of World War II. So the Swedish, at the very end of World War II, towards the latter years and the subsequent years, started manufacturing the AGM-42. After Sweden decided they were no longer going to manufacture them, Egypt signed a deal with the Swedish inventor and obtained all the manufacturing equipment to make their own version. Slightly different. It's probably about 95% the same as the AGM-42, but with a few modifications that the Egyptians felt necessary for their particular needs. And so these are made on the exact same equipment as the Swedish AGM-42. This is also chambered in 8mm Mauser. Like I said, they had tens of millions of rounds of 8mm Mauser, so why not take advantage of that and just use what stock ammunition you have? And so they created their own version and called it the Hakim rifle. I believe the word Hakim in Arabic means something like judge or ruler, like somebody who rules.
Again, anybody wants to leave a note in the comments, please feel free.
I noticed their iron sights are forward as opposed to the other one was in the back.
Right, and that's just how the Swedish designer designed it like that. I particularly like that because it's a nice, clean forward sight. You've got a little kind of a chute down there to look through the iron sight right here, and then through this round front sight post there.
I like that hooded foresight and the built-in suppressor.
Yes, and so that was one of the things they developed was this suppressor. It's a built-on suppressor. It is not removable, and obviously suppressors more or less are designed to reduce the effects of recoil. It just pushes the gases down at the front in order to keep the blowback or kick up from the rifles. So it helps reduce that kick from the rifle. And the Egyptians developed that, and as far as I know, it works very well. I just recently acquired this rifle. I got a very good deal on it. This is one of the best condition Hakim rifles I have seen. Very well kept. I would say for its age and whatever, it is in very good plus condition. These are relatively collectible. They made only about 80,000 of these rifles in total in Egypt. The Egyptian army did. It has a 10-round detachable magazine. A little bit easier than the other one. That's one functionality that's better than the FM49 is the detachability of the 10-round magazine. They have made some aftermarket 20-round magazines, but those are very, very hard to come by, and they cost a pretty penny as well, just because they didn't make a whole lot of them.
I have found that, especially with my 6.5 Creedmoor, it's a Moriarty Arms, having a 20-round magazine in that rifle makes it very difficult to use the forward mount bipod and actually aim it correctly, because the 20-round magazine sticks so far down below the weapon, it really takes out the maneuverability of trying to sight it in at distance. Even though the 6.5 Creedmoor round is a very flat trajectory round, you still need to raise the barrel up and the stock down in order to get some height. You can't do that with a 20-round magazine unless you shoulder fire the weapon. Firing from a bench position, the bench gets in the way. So a 10-round magazine, in my opinion, for distance shooting is better.
So one of the distinguishing parts about this rifle is the gas adjuster there, and there's a key that you have, and that adjusts the gas pressure depending on which type of round you're using it. Obviously, some rounds have a little bit more kick to them, a little bit more power. You don't need as much gas going through there to cycle the action on it. Some of them have less power, and so you need to open that up a more, so more of that gas blows back in and cycles the rifle properly. This has an interesting setup, the way that the Swedish developer developed it, in that if you take this rifle and push kind of the hood part here, push that forward, it locks on to the bolt, and you can pull it back, and it stays engaged. And then this one is also meant to be primarily fed by 5-round clips, although it is a lot easier than the FM49, like say, to just simply take off the magazine, insert another magazine, and be on your way. It was primarily designed to be top fed through the 10-round clips. One of the interesting things about this is you can see, they actually see the gas tube right here. And that's what produces the gas to and recoil to cycle the bolt. So if you do this very carefully, so you don't jam your thumb, just push down the... I'm even afraid to do it because I don't want to get my thumb stuck. But if you take out the magazine here and you simply tap it on the ground, it'll fire the bolt forward. This is very easily to get your thumb pinched in it. I've heard other people who have used this a lot that you get more Hakim thumb than you do M1 thumb.
I was curious how that was gonna...
Is that for a scope?
So I am not sure of the functionality of this, other than use it as a handle or whatever to pull out back the hammer. Now, without the magazine in there, if you pull this back in there, it just cycles that bolt forward.
Which is, a lot of box magazines have that effect. I really like that positive lock for the box magazine, though, underneath.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Right.
And remember that these rifles were designed decades ago, people. This is not a modern design, but you can see how some of the design elements are reflected in modern day rifles.
I really do like that built-in suppressor.
Yeah. So, and I have a bayonet for it, which are rather difficult to come by. As you see, it's slightly different. It's, you're talking about how do you take that one off. If you put this bayonet right here, it's rather snug. And then to take this type of bayonet off, there's several different rifles. I think it's the Swedes, and the couple rifles have the same thing. You just pull that this knob right here up and take it off. So instead of a push release, it's a pull release.
Oh, okay, okay.
So you just pull that off.
Interesting.
And so
that one looks doesn't look quite as 10 inches.
No, this is more of a standard, probably 9-inch. I mean, it could be about 10 inches. I don't know if we have a ruler or not, but yeah. I mean, it's definitely not as long as the other bayonet.
Yeah, it's definitely a 9-inch then.
There's at least a half an inch difference, maybe 3/4 of an inch difference.
For those that are asking themselves, why would you put a bayonet on a rifle? Because a club is a blunt instrument. A club with a bayonet
is a spear.
A lethal instrument.
It's a spear.
It's that simple.
Keep in mind, we're the only creatures on the planet that learned throwing weapons like spears and then bows and arrows before we learned agriculture. I'm just saying. It says something.
Right. So this was an indigenous project acquired from the Swedish, produced in Egypt. Like I say, roughly about 30,000 of these were produced.
That's
in
really
Egypt.
Relatively. That's not very much.
Yeah. So I've yet to shoot this rifle, but I hear it's a great shoot. I know, and if you want to watch some other videos, when we go out and shoot these things, we'll show you how it cycles and everything like that, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to being able to shoot this. So we'll jump on forward here. We'll put this one down. Fast forward.
How much do they weigh? Because they.
So these battle rifles tend to weigh anywhere between 10 and 12 pounds. That's because they got a lot of wood weight on them. These are, usually made out of hardwood like walnut.
That one's got a built-in.
Yeah. So fast forward a few years, and with the creation of the 7.62 by 39 round, there's the difference between the 8mm Mauser round and the 7.62 by 39 round there. It's quite a significant difference. Mm-hmm. So we have the Russians who developed the 7.62 by 39 round.
Which is indigenous to the AK-47.
Oh, I already got that. I want to get a closer look at the profile.
Right. So what happened is the Egyptians took the design of the Hakim and created a carbine version called the Rashid. And they chambered it in 7.62 by 39. Because at that time, this round was becoming very easy to acquire.
And is literally,
It's
for the last 50 years, the single most popular round available for a firearm on this planet is the 7.62 by 39 round. It comes in a lot of different flavors for different guns, but it is the most easily gotten or acquired round on the planet for 50 years running.
This is literally the baby brother of the Hakim. It functions almost exactly the same way. It has the same type of detachable magazine, same function of the detachable magazine, 10 round detachable magazine, chambered in 7.62 by 39 there. Take that out so we make sure weapon's clear. But it functions the exact same way.
I know that sound.
Yep. So you can see the same type of gas tube blowback there, the same kind of shape of hood for the bolt, the front sight or the rear sight is pretty much the exact same thing that's on the Hakim, and there's not a whole lot of difference in how the front sight works other than you can now take an adjusting tool and adjust the elevation on the front sight post there. Has the exact same type of gas adjust there. Same exact thing.
I've never seen the front sight being able to adjust for height.
Yeah. So on there, it's got, so you just take a little key that you can insert on through that hole right there.
Yeah.
And you can adjust that front sight post there relatively easy with through
trying to get the right angle to see, you can see the notch in it.
So,
but anyways, that's cool.
And the most interesting part I think about this one is the bayonet.
That works exactly like an AK or
this is the exact same bayonet as an SKS. I would not be surprised if they went and purchased these bayonets from the Russians and just adapted it to this rifle. Because I have a Yugoslav SKS and it is almost identical to this bayonet. So they just took that from the Russians and said, "Hey, we're going to put that on our carbine version of our rifle."
That looks like it's stamped steel. The dagger.
I don't know if it's stamped or not. It's either stamped or I don't know if it's stamped or poured or if it's machined.
If it's on a rifle, it's a bayonet. If it's in a scabbard on your hip, then it can be a blade. What word did you just use?
Stamped steel?
No, a dagger. A dagger goes in a scabbard on your hip. If it goes on a rifle, it's a bayonet.
Oh, for love, Pete. It's the same thing.
Potato, man. Just trying to be accurate here. Just like all these, the first two rifles that David showed us, use clips to load them, because a clip is actually called a stripper clip.
Yeah.
And you push the bullet, the stripper clip lines up, you push the bullets down into the weapon on the box magazine.
Also known as cinnamon and sugar?
No. That's where you get Garand thumb and other thumbs, because pushing that ammunition down from the stripper clip is what bites you.
Yeah.
Right. And so this one is also designed exactly the same way, of jamming down 2 5-round stripper clips. Same thing. I mean, like I said, this is literally a mini-me version of the Hakim. These are fairly difficult to find. They made only about 3,000 of these.
Oh, wow.
So they're relatively difficult to find. I was lucky enough to find this one. The stock is not in the greatest condition, but you can understand that it's been shipped from Egypt, gone through so many hands, who knows what happened, but I think it's in relatively good shape. I fired this before. It functions pretty much exactly like an SKS.
And what was the name of that one again?
The Rashid.
Do we know what that translation
I
is?
don't know what Rashid translates into. I didn't.
On Adventuring with the S.G.O.C.C, Rashid stands for, this is the rarest gun we've ever seen.
So, when I saw this one, I looked into it, like I normally do before I make a purchase, and I was like, okay, if I don't get this one now, I'll probably never get an opportunity to get one again. So I jumped on it right away.
And it's incredibly compact.
Yeah, it's compact. It has, you know, I guess if you compare it to like an M1 carbine, it's probably about the same size, same weight, and everything. It feels very, very similar to an SKS. Like I say, it functions almost the exact same way as an SKS. Like I say, the bayonet is the exact same bayonet as this type of bayonet. It's a Soviet Russian derived bayonet.
So a couple of design elements that I'm noticing with the Rashid and the Hakim is the hooded bolt carrier. In a sandy environment like Egypt, I think that would be a pretty good design element, because it's going to keep sand and grit out of the firing mechanism of the weapon. Those are two huge killers of weapons. Sand and grit, I mean, that's an abrasive. It's going to destroy your weapon if you don't keep it clean and oiled all the time. That design element would go a great length to preventing that.
Right, exactly.
Or at least reducing.
Right.
Yeah.
So the reason why I think my suspicions of why there was only 3,000 of these made is because it was much easier to acquire the SKS, and they were probably cheaper to manufacture since they were being mass produced in Soviet bloc countries. And then not long after that, the AK-47 came out, and the Egyptians probably simply said, "That's a better rifle. It fires the same ammunition. So why are we going to keep making this one?" And so they stopped production right around 3,000 of these. And so you can imagine that since about 1952 or 53, when these were first starting to be manufactured, that over the years, some of them get destroyed. I wouldn't make any type of speculation of how many are still in existence. But if you go on some of these auction websites and stuff like that, they're selling well over $1,000 for this particular rifle here, just because they are becoming that much more difficult to find on the market. The reason why I like some of these rifles is because they have Arabic writing on them. It's really cool to have something that's in Arabic, and you can just see that they took the time to make sure that they were properly marked. On some of the models here, they're pencil marked in numbers that we can read. They're not in Arabic numbers. They're in numbers that we can read. There is some English, or not English, but regular writing to us. So these are very cool pieces of history that I like to collect. And this is what I call the trifecta of Egyptian early battle rifles.
Now, did the Egyptians ever make their own scopes?
I think they would have adapted the scopes from what was already available, especially with like the FM49 and the Hakim. They did make some setups with a sniper version of the Hakim. Those are extremely rare to find, and I'm sure there are people who've probably tried to clone them as well. But if you can find an original Hakim sniper rifle, you're gonna pay probably about $3,000 to $4,000 for one of those. They're very rare to find in of themselves.
Based on the carrier group and the forestock, it would be somewhat difficult to attach a scope to either of these rifles because of the bulk carrier schematics. You would have to have the scope mounted very far forward and hanging back over the discharge area for the round. And it would make, it is possible, but it would be difficult. I think it would be much easier to attach a reflex or a red dot on a forward mount for a rifle like that.
Yeah, and then or they how the difference of how they tap them in order to do that. I would never change the condition of my particular weapons. If it didn't come that way, it's gonna stay that way because I believe in keeping it,
as original
condition. Yeah. I'm not going to try and make a clone out of any of these.
Well, there's a certain cachet of having an original rifle, especially 3 rifles with Egyptian writing, and they're not hieroglyphics though.
Yeah, it's Arabic writing. Yes.
But there's, like David says, keeping it original.
So we're not looking for Aramaic.
Has more value. I had the opportunity recently to pick up a Japanese infantry rifle, bolt action, an S.G.O.C.C. However, it was, in David's terms, bubbified. It had been shortened, the stock completely redone. It was so far away from original. The only thing original about it was
the name
and the ammunition it used. And it was borderline on whether or not it was more than its value. Because it was bubbified, it was never going to go up in value. It was only going to be a utility firearm, and I just didn't see a value at $300 for the purchase of it, so I passed, and I would have had to make payments on it anyways. But original rifles from around the world are a much better, not just investment, but a much better collector item than buying a rifle and trying to modernize it to bring it up to spec. You can go out and you can buy a 300 Win Mag, add a scope to it, and you'll be way, way ahead than whatever modern accoutrements you could add to an original rifle like this. And it just deducts from its cachet and its value. These are wonderful rifles to look at, handle, and fire that are in their original condition. That's the point. But I digress.
Correct.
Do you guys know the rifle that the White Ghost used?
It was a Mosin Nagant.
Oh yes, the Mosin Nagant. Yes.
When Russia, post World War I, tried to invade the Nordic countries, they were soundly beaten back. And what happened was they recruited peasants to be the army for Russia. When the Russians would lose battles, there would be tens of thousands of Mosin Nagants, which is a Russian rifle, littering the battlefield. Well, the Nordic countries would go scoop them up, throw a scope on some of them, and hand them out to their
hunters,
skiers and hunters. And these are men that were used to skiing cross-country for 100 miles in a day.
In frigid conditions.
I forget his name.
Yeah, I can't remember the White Ghost name. That's why, but I know that's what his nickname was the White Ghost, or White Death.
He was, in parliamentary terms, enormously effective.
He was taking out whole companies, not just their commanders. I mean, the whole company.
Yeah, and so So yeah, that's just the same thing. And on future editions of S.G.O.C.C, we will show some of that.
Used to be you could go into a pawn shop or a gun shop and you could pick up an original Mosin Nagant from one of the Nordic countries for $100. And it wasn't that many years ago that you could do that. Now collectors have discovered that it's a great gun because it is a good gun. It's like most military weapons. It's solid, 200-yard, reliable gun. Mosin Nagant shoots a 7.62 by 54, I believe.
Correct.
Of which there is a Russian white box sitting right there.
Wait a minute.
Ammunition.
You have Russian ammunition? You must be one of those Russian trolls.
No,
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
I just enjoy firearms, which is why I have 2 gun safes. So what else do you have for us besides 3 rifles? I see a pistol case.
As a bonus to the Egyptian theme, we have
But wait, there's more.
Exactly. We'll make sure we make our weapons safe and secure.
Got to get closer. This is not as big as the others.
Okay.
And what is this?
This is a clone of a Beretta model 1951. This is manufactured by the Egyptian Army on the equipment from Beretta, and it is known as the Helwan or Brigadier. Sometimes the civilian versions of this is called a Brigadier, but this particular pistol is an Egyptian Army issue model. It is chambered in 9mm.
I'm trying to read the writing. If anybody can read that, let me know.
I think it says "eat at woos."
Yeah. So on one side, it's you can see on the other side, right there.
Let me get the lighting in here is not that great.
Yep. There
What
we
is,
go
what is
right
this?
there.
Made in Egypt.
Egypt. It's a Helwan, caliber 9mm.
And is that APE?
ARE. I don't
ARE.
remember. It's probably
Oh, there we go.
what the initials are for the Egyptian Republic or something like that.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but is that a camel?
I think
With
that's
a spear?
millimeter. No, that's mm. 9mm.
Oh, for the God's sakes, the way it's
Yeah.
got that little up thing, it looks like somebody camel maybe on a spear.
Right. If you
Single
go to the front
anyways.
right there, you can see the the Arabic
Ah, yes.
writing there. That's
Who's
one-
Alex V? ALEX?
Oh, okay. So that's the actually that's the importer right there.
Oh, okay.
Alexandria, Virginia. I don't remember who imported this, but whatever company it was, or is located in Alexandria, Virginia. So 9mm. Like I say, it is an exact clone of the Beretta model 1951.
Was it one of those things where there was a conflict with Egypt and one of our service members lost their Beretta?
So it was more like Egypt had contracted with Beretta to manufacture these pistols for the Egyptian army. And Egypt went, well, why can't we just make them ourselves? So they contracted and got the rights to some of the equipment to produce their own indigenous pistols, just very similar to what happened with the Hakim rifle. So I think at this time, Egypt wanted to be self-sufficient in their firearms production and make some minor modifications to their production, and that's what they did.
And you can't blame them. Any country should have their own manufacturing capabilities in case the one country you're getting your arms from decides we're not longer doing that, and now you're SOL.
Well, most firearm designers, I'll just pick John Moses Browning for instance, licensed his designs. For instance, the 1911 45 ACP semi-automatic handgun, gas operated. It wasn't the first gas operated semi-automatic, but it's so incredibly reliable that John Moses Browning licensed it to other countries. all over so that they could manufacture the weapon in their country, as Tim just said. In case of war or conflict, they weren't reliant on their enemy to supply them with firearms.
You mean kind of like how most of Europe relies on Russian oil?
Yeah.
In some respect, yes. Yeah. So, this is a robust pistol. Berettas like this are highly collectible. They're sought after. They retain their value. And the fact that this right here is an issued Egyptian army is even more desirable, because Egyptians even made a civilian version of this that doesn't have some of the markings on here. That's the difference. One of the main differences that you can see. They also took more care in making these for the army. There have been some stories about this, about cutting some corners during manufacturing for the civilian models of this that were made in Egypt, and not having as much durability as the
That makes
ones
sense
for the army. But this one is, or was, issued to the Egyptian army. You can tell it's very good quality. Maybe not as high quality if it was made in Italy by Beretta itself. People have made the comparison between the two, and they do notice that there are some very minor reliability issues with the Egyptian manufactured model. But I fired this. It has a pretty heavy trigger on it, which, you know, is a military thing. Military tends to have a heavier trigger than civilian models of stuff. But it is very reliable. It fires well. It's a lot of fun to shoot.
What is it, around 7 to 8 pounds?
No, this is probably about
No, the trigger pull.
Yeah, I would say around 8 pounds. It's like I say, it's pretty heavy trigger pull.
Why is the reason?
I think it's probably because this doesn't have a safety. Well, it does have a safety, but I think it's more because I would suspect that it's a durability thing. That a heavier trigger means, you know, more of a durable spring inside and the
Shoot
action
more.
inside, and so it's not as easily susceptible to accidentally or negligently discharging under combat or stressful conditions. If you have a light trigger and you're under stressful conditions, you might get a little too aggressive on the trigger pull, and you're shooting when you don't intend to shoot at that moment. So that might be a few of the reasons why. But yeah, so this kind of rounds out my collection of Egyptian mid-century firearms. I know that Egypt has some more firearms, small arms that they made. Now I'll have to look into getting some of those. But this is a pretty good, decent collection that gives you a good, good view of how the Egyptians were thinking back post World War II, and their progression of firearms, their desire to be more self-sufficient in their production of firearms, and make it how they will see fit for what was best for their army at that time.
Cool.
Just a last final note, the 9mm semi-automatic handgun is 9mm Luger, I believe.
Yes.
Which is the standard for 9mm ammunition across the planet. Still used to this day, and it's a German design round.
It's amazing how much the Germans contributed.
The other 9mm round that is common is what's called a Makarov round. A 9mm round is about yay tall. A Makarov is about 3/4 the size, and it's a 9x17 instead of a 9mm Luger. I've owned a couple of Makarovs in my history. I prefer the Luger. It's got more stopping power, higher ballistic energy, and it's easier to find. Go in a store and try to find 9mm Makarov, and you're going to be disappointed 9 out of 10 times. That's a mail order item. But I want to give a big shout out and thanks to David for bringing his Egyptian collection by. very interesting stuff. If you have any comments, again, leave a comment. We'd love to learn more. And thank you for,
Or if you'd like to be on the show.
yeah, if you have a collection you'd like to share with us on In the Bunker with Geoff, feel free to.
And it doesn't have to be just guns. It can be swords, knives, daggers,
Bayonets.
bikinis. I don't care.
Grenades. Oh, wait a minute.
Well, we have Tannerite for that. Yeah, this has been a special In the Bunker with Geoff, and even though Cassie is not here, I'll fill in for her. This has been a Fun Brothers production.